DA has laid out its plans to get to the bottom of the fire at Parliament. eNCA's Monique Mortlock has been following that briefing and joins me now for an update. So the key point for the DA, it would seem, Monique, is that that word came out from John Steenhuisen about scapegoating, saying that they welcome that there's a person who's been arrested, but let us not allow scapegoating to occur.
That's it. If indeed this was an example.
Yes, Sulas, exactly what you mentioned now about the fact that even though that one suspect was arrested, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that there may be other people who could be held liable or responsible for what occurred. DA leader John Steenhuisen was speaking about the fact that if it is, as National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Qakula alluded to, if this was an attack on Parliament, then it is an attack on democracy, and this should be dealt with a matter of urgency. Let's just take a listen to Steenhuisen as he laid out the DA's stance on this fire that broke out at Parliament.
If this is, as some are suggesting, an assault on our democracy, well then the very, very best reaction will be to ensure that democracy does not stop doing its work. And so the focus for us over the next few weeks and months has got to be on how we get Parliament's business back up and running as seamlessly as possible. Because that's how you deal with people who try and disrupt democracy. That's how you deal with adversity. You get straight back up again and you get back to work. It is absolutely important that the people's business is not derailed by these tragic events of the last few days. What lies behind us is the ruins of what was the repository of a great deal of South African history, some priceless artifacts and literary works, some priceless works of art, but also it is the crucible of the national debate. It is where history has been made, it is where our country transformed itself into a democracy, and it has also been the scenes of some of the best times in South Africa, but the scenes of some of the worst times in South Africa. And we hope that like a phoenix rising from the ashes, our Parliament too will rise from those ashes.
So naturally, a lot is still up in the air, Monique, as John Steenhuisen uses that qualifier, if this turns out to be an attack on our democracy, then the response, according to Steenhuisen, should be to show strength of that democracy by ensuring that the work of Parliament continues. And he suggests that part of doing that starts this afternoon with the handover of the report, the Zondo Commission report, the first part thereof. And he's been talking about this concern about a potential conflict of interest with President Ramaphosa receiving the report. He says there's a solution, and the solution is Parliament.
Is the fact that democracy needs to continue. Yes, exactly. And he says that it's for this reason that Parliament should be looking at those alternatives that have been put before it by Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis, offering up the City Hall, offering up the Grand Parade for use by Parliament for the State of the Nation address. The Premier of the Western Cape, Alan Windey, has also offered up use of the Cape Town International Convention Centre, those facilities. And this is something that the presiding officers have also welcomed, saying that we should be working together. We should be, there shouldn't be a political matter. But there is one thing that various opposition parties have been speaking about, and that's the fact that Parliament, there were indications of lapses in security, of some mistakes that needed to be fixed over the last 2 or so years. And to tell us a bit more about that, I have with me the DA Shadow Minister for Public Works, Samantha Graham. You were speaking about that BDO report, and that's something that yesterday we heard in that briefing by Minister Patricia de Lille and those presiding officers that they were speaking about and saying that they have had a chance to look at it. Tell me, what are the concerns around that report, the fact that you as the opposition party haven't even had a chance to look at it, and what does it contain? Why is it so important, especially in light of what has happened?
Thank you very much. The concern around the BDO report is that this report was commissioned at least 2 years ago. It was hidden from the minister for a year. It was only through a parliamentary question that I asked her that we then verified that the report existed. The Minister has not released that report. She's given it to the Speaker. She advised me in a written response to my parliamentary question that she had given it to the Speaker and that it was going to be sent to the Internal Audit Committee and that they would be looking at a process around the implementation by the end of September. Obviously, this hasn't happened. The thing with the BDO report is that it highlighted 3 very significant risks around fire. 2 significant and 1 critical, the critical one being the protection of the heritage, which is obviously what we have now seen. This was highlighted. Had that report been implemented within the last year, perhaps we could have mitigated against the extent of this fire. In addition, after the fire in March, the report that was issued again highlighted the significant flaws in the fire system and the protection system within the parliamentary precinct. And again, it took so long for this thing to even see the light of day. It was only published in August. Nothing has been done to mitigate. So it is our belief that although whatever the cause of the fire, it could have been mitigated and the extent of the fire could have been limited had some of these processes been put in place. As I said earlier, a person who is intimate knowledge of the systems here has said that if those systems had been working and operational and the monitoring systems had been in place and the fire panels had been properly checked, that in all likelihood we would have had notification of that fire within a maximum of 3 minutes. It is evident that none of those systems were working.
Thank you very much. That was the DA's Shadow Minister for Public Works and Infrastructure, Samantha Graham, there speaking about that very important, that crucial BDO report that had made those recommendations to improve the fire prevention systems and seems to not have been put in place. And the DA saying that this fire, or at least the extent of the fire, it may have been prevented had these mitigating measures been put in place. And hopefully a little later we can hear from those presiding officers, if they are here at Parliament, which I'm sure they are, because there are continuous meetings that they'll be having with the various organs like your SAPS and the Parliamentary Protection Services, just to press them a bit more on some of these issues.
All right, Monique Mortlock, live for us from outside what remains of the National Assembly, at least in Parliament. They're giving us an update and speaking to the DA leadership there about that fire. Yeah, so that's the situation we find ourselves in, that there will be accountability and there will be reports, etc., etc. I just hope this fire doesn't go the same way as the Bank of Lisbon fire of a few years ago in the city of Johannesburg. Remember that? Well, please, if you've seen the final report, get in touch and just let us know. You've seen it, you've read it, you now know what exactly transpired. Year in, year out, there's a promise the report will come out, the report will come out. We've never seen it, so hopefully we can move with speed in as far as the fire in Parliament is concerned. And I just feel that we need to demand a bit more, exert accountability from those responsible. We had the unrest in July last year. We were told there were 12 instigators, and then a few people were arrested. And then when they were charged, the charges didn't really speak to being an instigator of what the president at one point called a failed insurrection. If you have a failed insurrection, the charges should be far much more serious. The trial should be, the trials should be more coordinated and speak to the threat to our democracy. We didn't see that. We saw a cosmetic, reshuffle, and that was that. And we moved on. And a few people are appearing on charges of public violence and the likes. Anyway, this is All Angles on eNCA. It's good to be with you on this day, on the 4th of January 2022.